Click links to our channel here over at SubStars, now over at Odyssey. So the toxic positive echo chamber of Concord and Sony should have stayed in Japan. So what is going on is there's a shift in the analysis, the way people, the media, even which is all obviously all left-wing media, is discussing the left, like with that phrase somewhere in the article, something about toxic positivity. They're having to enlarge the nomenclature to take into accord what is happening, which is all these financial failures, because they're making just most insane woke stuff. Which a lot of this is kind of this punctuated equilibrium. No, that's not right. What am I thinking of? It kind of happened since Trump. Like, it's always been slowly increasing. But then in 2016 they lost their mind, and then in 2020 with the riots, it just skyrocketed into, I mean, what you see on the screen before you, this kind of cancer, and it's impossible to ignore because they're losing so much money. And even if is in this article and all the other articles, they won't mention woke or diversity or feminism, all that kind of, Frankfurt School cancer. They just talk about how it failed, but they never go into why it failed, which is, because they just can't say it. It's woke. Like, they'll never say. I don't even think they'll say something like it was perceived as woke, because if they did, if this guy did, and a comic book has a good article on it as well, then the Twitter people would just attack him for the words he used if you refer to it as woke, because, as we'll get into, it gives validity to the left. So how did people make a $400 million failure? And most people would simply look at this game. This is a great image, because there's nothing in the game there's nothing in this image, in these character designs, that draw in the gamer. And I mean, essentially, you need their $40 or whatever it costs for the game, and you look at this image and they look away and they move on. It's like a split second decision. So how do you make a $400 million alleged failure? And I don't know. That number seems. They say it was $200 million before Sony acquired it, and then they spent $200 million fixing it. I mean, eventually the number will come out, and if it is really that high, it's just mind blowing. But it's at least a $200 million failure. So most people look at this game and they instantly call it woke, because this, and there's a couple other images. It's got a bunch of fat, ugly, diverse, and imagine that robots with pronouns wouldn't be popular. Shocking, I know. So I think a problem with the left is they don't give validity to the concept of woke as a pejorative. And it's the adage of, you can ignore something, which they love to do, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring it. And it's inconceivable to the soy left that I can say, yeah, I don't want diversity, the BLT, GTV themes, or feminism. Because to the left, if you don't want all that kind of stuff, yeah, can I get the Spider-Man mod without the rainbow flags? And they lose their mind. You go, no, I don't want to change your game, but if I'm playing the game, I don't want rainbow flags in it, so I'm just going to mod that or download the mod to that. And, like, logically, they don't have a reason to say, oh, yeah, of course you can mod your own game. It's like, it doesn't matter, but they want they want to control your environment as well, because they want to spread this propaganda. You go, yeah, the rainbow stuff is not my value. I go, well, just don't buy the game. Okay, challenge accepted. And you're seeing the consequences of that kind of stuff. And in fact, the guy who modded the Spider-Man game, I don't know, they kicked him off or they banned his account or something. So it's inconceivable for me to say this kind of stuff, which I very much love saying to them on Twitter, since they're on the right side of history, or that's how they perceive it, and that they know better than you. And you're wrong, and you can simply be ignored because you're a Hugo Boss, which means they're talking about like 90% of the gamers or the movie-going audience. In their mind, if you're to the right of Lenin and Marx, then you're literally march around in Hugo Boss. But it still boils down to, the gamer is most likely to be an Asian or European male who doesn't want obese, lesbian, POC women fighting the patriarchy. We're straight-based chads who would just look at this stuff and go, oh, this is ugly, woke, and move on. And, the two words we used in our childhood, in my generation, was uh, gay and R-slur, meaning the opposite of advanced. Like when you do a flash timing on the spark, or, you have the flash gun for the spark thing. You don't advance the spark, you send it back. So those two words, the G-slur and R-slur, social media took those words away from people because they want to control the way you think. And those are such great shortcuts, because you look at a game, a movie, or something, and you ask your friends about it, and they go, oh no, it's kind of G-slur. And it means a lot of things. It also means like, okay, well, you generally trust your friends in terms of games or movies, and if they say it's R-slur, G-slur, you just move on. You're not going to waste any more time with it, because they're more right than wrong, and that's why you have these friends, and why you trust your friends to help you review movies and games, because you have a lot of similar viewpoints, and they know what you like. Even if they like it themselves, they go, oh yeah, you're probably not going to like it. That's the point of having friends who are. It's a shortcut to playing video games and movies and all this kind of stuff, is because they know what you like. It's your own kind of movie review network. But they took those words away on social media, so they slowly took them out of the public lexicon as well. It's really interesting, the broad scale implications of what the left has managed to do, and thanks in part to Melanie Mack, we're bringing some of these words back, the bundles of sticks. She is the funniest chick. Anyway, so I think it's inconceivable that we can say this kind of stuff, but it simply boils down to the gamer wants what they want. And in simple terms, you have the game makers who probably look exactly like you expect them to look in this toxic echo chamber of the left, and the players are either on the right, or even if they're kind of apolitical, most of them are just politically incorrect or don't understand political correctness because they might be on the spectrum a little bit, or they're just men in general are not politically correct, probably because men have agency. So when they see something like a POC woman, it actually pushes them away, because over the past few years and even decades, we've learned what the Mary Sue concept is. And the other thing the left doesn't understand is that all this is not happening in a vacuum. All this woke bullshit cancer is everywhere. It's in every commercial. There's a guy on Twitter called White Men Are Stupid in Commercials, I think, who goes through all that. People send him all these commercials, and you see there's this massive overrepresentation in American and English commercials where it's gee, how are they so incompetent, but they built Europe and America? Yeah, it sure is a mystery. So we're seeing this everywhere. Comics, movies, streaming shows, TVs, and video games. Those are soy boy values. And unfortunately, the corporations are caught up in the DEI, globalist, Klaus Schwab brainwashing. It's diversity, inclusion, and equity. So let me just be clear. We don't believe that those are good things. That's communism, but it controls these companies. It's like you put the 300-pound, blue-haired, nose-ring human resources lady, but you put her in charge of everything, and that's what's happened in the past 20 years. So what happens is you get astronauts, is that Boeing, caught in space for months, and actually the CEO in that division just got fired because he was... anyway, so you also get the Eternals, Black Widow, the Marvels, Madam Web, Black Adam, Shazam Part 2, SS Squad 2, The Flash, Charlie's Angels, Terminator X, Women, that Red Panda movie, the animation set in Canada, Acolyte, Ahsoka, Andor, She-Hulk, Willow, The Witcher, Bros, Strange World, Wish. There's been a lot of... Those are just off the top of my head. There's obviously, I missed half of them. There's been a lot of failures over the year, massive failures, to the tune of, for Disney, it was $900 million last year, because the audience perceives the movies and companies as woke. And those two concepts, the perception and woke, are things the left just refuses to acknowledge, but which, for the sake of this, can roughly be defined as woke is anti-white, anti-nationalism, anti-natal, anti-birth, anti-Christian, or kind of even anti-Euro-pagan for that matter. It's anything that European people having in-group preferences, doing things, having, I don't know, having their trying to advance their own interests or seeing themselves in a positive light, the left wing loses their mind at that. But that's the reality, and that affects what they buy. And the woke elements are females being put in unnatural roles, or they're being put in male roles. Now, to the left, this doesn't make sense because there are no men or women to them, and there are no races or ethnicities. It's not real to them, or they say it's not real. But that's irrelevant in business. Here's the robots with pronouns. It's like, okay, they're anthropomorphic, I get that, but they don't have pronouns. And to the right, or to normal people, pronouns are derived from your sex. There's only two. Like all that, the gender stuff and how they feel, that's not real. I know the left feels it's real, but we know it's not real. Like, there's only two pronouns, and there's only the masculine and feminine form, or there's, I guess, the plural. But if you're a male, then your pronouns are going to be male. And the thing is, this kind of a sticking point for us, and we don't mean to be rude, because essentially you're asking us to deny reality. We know what reality is. We know what men and women are. We're not the Supreme Court justices. We know reality, and we don't have to get into gammies and X and Y. It's like, well, your whole life you knew what a female is. You know what a male is. And you're asking us to play pretend, to believe these absurdities because you're committing atrocities. Looks around at them giving cross-sex hormones and sterilizing kids. It's all actually happening. You're living through it. It's bizarre. Am I saying form local clubs? Yes, absolutely. So it's real to the other party of the contract, the gamer who's the potential buyer, which the left ignores, but the consequences are that the Nazi gamers just don't buy the product. And keep in mind, the left doesn't support these games or movies either. The difference is that they say they value the diversity, vagina, pox, walks stuff, but they actually don't. Most of us are just honest. I don't value non-European diversity or girls in male roles and any of that kind of stuff. It's globalist, anti-white hate propaganda. It's cringe, which is kind of worse than everything else. But I'm actually able to say it. But the left lies to these companies to virtue signal on Twitter. But they don't actually go watch all this vagina power, diversity stuff. Because deep down, they want women in women's roles and men in men's roles. One of the guys in the Ramones was talking about to be a rebel, but you still have to have something to rebel against. He means you had to have a stable society. And a little rebellion, a little, who is that, James Dean in his... bathtub Porsche or something. You still had to have a stable. There's no rebellion in Somalia or Ethiopia or any of the failed states because they're just trying to survive. That's a concept that only happens within a stable system. Where a little rebellion as the outlier is good. So people want people in their natural roles. You want the best, the calm. What do you want as a pilot? You want a white male, ex-military, gray hair, 50-year-old pilot who has flown through the storms and come out the other side, who has had an engine out and put the plane down safely, who has had to make the triage decisions when flying, who you want that guy flying your plane. You don't want the guy who they just fired from Boeing, because you have astronauts who are stuck in space. Literally, I mean, there's obviously more not to be discussed on YouTube, of course, to what's going on, where you're actually seeing the consequences of it. I mean, it's impossible to ignore. People go, oh, it's just one little thing here and there, but it starts adding up. A bunch of engineers of the XX variety, I think, if I have that right, got together to build a bridge. What happened to it? Oh, it collapsed. Okay. I mean, you're going to see this kind of it's being done on purpose. It's kind of like the end of the Soviet Union when all their bad decisions in terms of engineering and metallurgy all caught up with them and things just started to collapse because nobody cared, because you have to like people have to have a reward. It's just human nature. Anyway, people get nervous when they see the sexes outside their roles because it's an unstable rat utopia situation, and it leads to dangerous failure because you have people making decisions on virtue signaling emotions and not on cool logic. And to be fair, that's what the yin and yang of the balance is. You need to have the male and female. You can't just have the analytical cool logic of male. You have to have the balance. So, I mean, a lot of people have this like straw man that men are just robots. It's like, that's not true either. You know what's funny is I saw some survival show on it was YouTube years ago, and it was all men go to some island, and there were a couple spurgs on the island, and it was the men were so kind to this guy to try to bring him into the fold. It's just like Hollywood has just brainwashed us for so friggin' long. Anyway, so you're seeing the consequences everywhere now. So how do you get to this game is, well, you got people talking over the ideas of the story and gameplay, and all that is fine. The movements, the character is the sticking point, because when they get to the character design, where they go, oh, they have a bunch of soy boys and blue-haired obese pronoun people, and they start coming up with the characters, and they're drawing pox, fat, breastless, pan, furry, other kin type of just nonsense characters, and they're cheering, or God, what's that new, the Dragon Age or Dragon Vance or something design, where you pick the characters, and somebody was showing like you put the breast size on max, and it's like a B cup, and then it's a BLT person who's in charge of game design. You go like, why do you have someone who's not in accord with 99% of what the audience desires? It's like, because this Schwab stuff, this DEI stuff has taken over these industries, which, you know, those some corporations have finally started closing those departments and just trimming the fat in their HR diversity departments, because it's literally just costing them the money. So but the thing is, when they get together and they did the She-Hulk interview with the lady, and they go, yeah, we're pissing off all the Chads who don't buy our product or watch our show. I mean, it's insane when you say it, but they really believe this stuff. Like, we're gonna make those guys so angry. And if I was in the room and I knew I wasn't gonna get fired, I'd be like, but won't they just not watch, and your numbers will go down, and you won't get a second season? And they look like, Nazi says what? Yeah, but okay, I get that for sure. Roman salutes and sees what happened, but the people don't watch the second season, and that's the reality. It's like, oh, you're all fired. Oh, yeah, but we own the Chads. Yeah, but you're fired. You don't get a chance to keep making fun shows, and like they're so deep in an echo chamber. And to be fair, like, those people will get hired on for more Disney crap, because like the people at the top of Disney are all these. Like, Disney couldn't turn around if it wanted to. This is a one-way journey for Disney, because there's too many people who are just believers. Like, they are drinking the Kool-Aid at Disney and all these other companies. So people want big milkers and beautiful characters out of Aryan central casting. And the echo chamber means that nobody in the room simply talks like me, a normal person. I'm a normal person of a few years ago, and most people are like me. They're just not saying this kind of stuff, and explains that the audience for these woke characters simply doesn't exist. You can put all the emotions and politics aside. The customers want good-looking European or Asian characters, from the good parts of Europe, the North, Scandinavian types, with aspirational physical designs and jiggle physics. They want like superhero type of bodies. It's like, no, most people don't look like that, but that's not a problem. We're not trying to be realistic. These are cartoons and comics and movies. They're inspirational, aspirational characters. You don't put fat, schlubby characters as Captain America. You get some guy who's just in peak physical condition, because that's what the customer is willing to exchange money for. It doesn't matter why they want what they want. They don't have to explain it or justify it. They've got $40 in their hand, and if you want that money, you'll design the game that they want. And they ignored the gamers, and they got the consequences of a massive amount of failures. So I don't need to know anything else about the game. When I see that image of, if I see a pox female or a flat-chested female character or obesity, then it's woke and it's not interesting. And that decision is made in a split second. The woke echo chamber of toxic positivity in games, movies, streaming, comics means making items for an audience that almost doesn't exist. The audience is pro-white, pro-Asian, and wants those characters. They want beautiful, fit, superhero type characters because it's a game. They want the D-cup gravity-defined milkers. It doesn't matter. All the feminists will see the Anita Sarkeesians and the Zoe Quinns. We'll see all those things and have a bunch of Frankfurt School babble, but we just turn down the volume when feminists are speaking because it's not interesting to us. We don't value their opinions, and it doesn't matter why we don't value their opinions. It just matters that we're not going to buy these movies and all this kind of... The people who support Nita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn, there's just not enough of them to make an industry. Because most gamers are not politically correct. They're pro-tribal, they want beautiful things, they're pro-natal, or in the view of the left, they're all Hugo Boss chads. So in games in Hollywood, you have them going farther left and the audience is going farther right, which you logically look at and you go, oh, well, why doesn't, like just as a child would go, why doesn't the corporation just hire right-wing, white-based chads to make the games and movies to sell? Because they're trying to change the West via propaganda. By now, you have your head in the sand if you don't see what the lizards are doing behind all of this. Anyway, join the subscribe star for the other sort of videos, because I actually gave a homeless person a bunch of money last night, and now I'm broke. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all next episode.